Welcome to Goobertown Hobbies. My name is Brent. In a previous episode, I went through my collection of unpainted minis with the goal of finding the best one. I was looking for a hidden gem that would call out to me. The idea was to spend a day or two painting a model that I really, truly wanted to paint. I'm not worried about whether I'll ever use this model in a game. I'm not worried about my to-do list. I'm not trying to win a competition. The goal is to leave all that behind. We're going to sit down and paint a mini entirely for the fun of it. I looked through a lot of different minis. Warhammer 40k, Warhammer Fantasy, Age of Sigmar, and a ton of smaller games from various publishers. Oh, I've got a lot of unpainted stuff, huh? A lot of us eventually find ourselves in a situation where we have a meaty backlog of unpainted models. Over time, our interest in painting various minis waxes and wanes. I think the trick might be to paint things right when that interest and excitement is at a peak. I looked through all this and I came up with 5 juicy options. Here are the contenders. Gnome Alchemist from Reaper. Necromunda Escher Ganger. Arena Rex Gladiator. Crocodile Games Sabeki Mascot. Well, those were the runner-ups. What I actually chose is this. A Warhammer 40k Inquisitor in a pilgrim hat. As I was going through my collection, this is one of the few minis that I had actually forgotten about. It was a special treat to find this mini, and I knew that he'd be perfect for my next painting project. Look at all that dust. I'm gonna give this model an ultrasonic bath in LA's Totally Awesome to clean the dirt and old primer off. I recognized this mini from one particular Craigslist deal where a family was selling the collection of a deceased uncle. Chris Price from New Hampshire, you and I never had the chance to meet in life. You loved Warhammer and you supported your local hobby shop. You were taken from us too young and you left many things undone. Rest easy though, Chris. I will carry your burden. I will finish your life's work. This mini is no burden though. This mini is an absolute joy. Today, your Inquisitor and his technologically advanced pilgrim hat are gonna bring a bit of happiness to the world. After sonication and a bit of brushing, the pewter cleaned up quite nicely. I removed as much flash as I could find, and I got ready to prime him up again. By this time, I was able to figure out that this figure is from 2003 and was once known as a witch hunter. Of course, Chris also had the relevant codex. I really love this side of 40k with the Inquisitors and sidekicks and weirdos. This particular figure is actually still for sale by Games Workshop as an Inquisitor with Inferno Pistol and Power Sword. A lot of minis from this vintage are out of production now, but it was cool to see that this guy is still in action. The box art is a fine paint scheme, and we could try to replicate it. But nah, today we're gonna go wherever the muse takes us. I'm intending for this to be a brush-only paint job, but I still like to start with a nice zenithal highlight of white ink over black primer so that my eyes and the camera can see all of the detail a bit easier. Let's dive in, start slinging some paint, and see where it takes us. There's a lot of detail here that I'm noticing for the first time. How many shirts and jackets does this guy have? How many belts? Those wires that run through his pilgrim hat? Where do they start and where do they end up? This is such a strange dude. And as I'm working, I'm trying to figure out what brand of strange he is. I like to make up a little backstory for my characters when I paint them. I am totally on board with this figure being an Inquisitor. I've read a bunch of the Eisenhorn and Ravener books from Black Library. Those Inquisitor characters can be pretty fun. They're depicted as traveling around the galaxy with a small ship and a spunky crew of sidekicks. They hunt down heretics and chaos spawn. They locate ancient and powerful alien artifacts. Sometimes Inquisitors delve into lost secrets, and sometimes they make sure that those secrets stay buried forever. Every planet they go to, they make new enemies and new allies. In the 40k universe, Inquisitors have a ton of power. They can walk up to a planetary governor and requisition whatever they need to accomplish their mission. Oh yeah, we can do something with all that. As I'm painting, I just gotta figure out what style of Inquisitor this fellow is going to be. We could go full grimdark, or we could go bright and extravagant. We could go grungy or meticulously composed. And as you can see, I had a few false starts. For a while, I just couldn't figure out what the main colors should be. This footage is all from the same day that I went digging through my collection. My goal was to pick the model, get it cleaned, get it primed, and get a promising base coat all in one go. I wanted to ride that wave of enthusiasm to make sure that I was on the path to a great model before I took a break. Well, I found so many color combinations on this mini that were dead ends that I almost decided to bench it and start painting that cute little gnome alchemist. But then, there it was. Light green, dark green, and brown. We have a winner. It took me a little while to find the groove, but once I found it, everything just snapped into place. Now here's the real magic as far as I'm concerned. This color combo reminds me of an early scheme that I did for a squad of Imperial Guard. Perfect. This Inquisitor came to a planet and requisitioned a squad of the Planetary Defense Force to march out into the jungle to find some Chaos artifact or something. Those poor troopers were ordered to report for a special assignment, and then here's this weirdo wearing a pilgrim hat who's gonna be their boss until further notice. And now this scary, scary man is telling the troops to get into a land speeder and head off towards the jungle. These guys normally just guard the hangars back on base. But now this Inquisitor is taking them on safari to hunt heretics or something. It's the perfect setup for a sitcom. As you can see, this idea really grabbed me. I know who my Inquisitor is. He's the world's most frightening boss, leading unlucky troopers off on a dangerous mission. Also, his name is Gerald. I knew that the unfortunate troopers were a really important part of this whole scene. I found 4 half-painted guardsmen, and I got to work. Back in the day, I bought a box of 20 Cadian shock troops for the MSRP of $20. At that time, I figured out this color combination, which I still really like. Apparently, I only finished painting 10 of them. I want to keep those 10 troopers intact for nostalgia. I'm taking a few of the half-painted troops from that same box, and I'm trying to get them done up well enough to follow around the Inquisitor. It seems that over the years I've gotten better at assembling and priming models, but that's okay, we will make do. I realized that I still have the same pots of paint that I used, the old camo green from Games Workshop and yellow olive from Vallejo. They were a bit chunky, but I got them to work without too much trouble. Is it weird to say that I love the smell of the old Citadel paints? Should I keep that information to myself? You know what? I don't care who knows. The smell of those old Citadel paints in the short hexagonal pots is a hit of pure nostalgia for me. May they never run dry. Let's take a break and look at these cats. What are they doing, those little cuties? Wait, what's going on here? 100,000 subscribers? That's incredible. That's insane. For real, thank you all for your time and your support and your friendship. I certainly did not foresee this little twist in life's road, but this hobby and this community are an absolute blessing. I'm so happy to be here with you all doing this. Okay, enough of that mushy stuff. We've got a Techno Pilgrim and his unlucky squad to paint. I'm thinking of these figures almost like a playset. I want to put them in strange new places, discovering strange things, and meeting strange people. I absolutely love the idea of these ordinary troopers having to interact with acquaintances of the Inquisitor. Of course, every one that the Inquisitor takes them to meet are complete weirdos. Assassins, psychers, bounty hunters, rogue traders, tech adepts. This could be an excuse to paint some really crazy models in the future. I'm just thinking about the look on those poor soldiers' faces when they have to meet yet another absolutely insane character. Then they've got to follow the Inquisitor and his friends tramping through the jungle. And of course, they're marching towards something terrible, like some ancient Xenos cave that's been infested with chaos spawn. The cherry on the top of all of this is the eye roll that the soldiers give to each other. Here we go again, lads. These Cadians were pretty straightforward to paint. A simple base coat and a bit of a wash went a long way. Let's set those aside and get back to the Inquisitor. So in understanding who Gerald is, we gotta know why he's wearing the same colors as the Planetary Defense Force troopers who are being forced to follow him around. As I see it, there are two possibilities. Either Gerald changed his gear to match the troopers, or he made the troopers change their gear to match him. And I gotta tell ya, both of those are funny. So Gerald comes into this solar system and down to this planet on a mission, and he needs to requisition some local manpower to go out hunting for heretics. He speaks to the local commanders, he flashes his inquisitorial rosette, and he gets a small squad reassigned to help him out on his quest. From here, there are two possibilities. The first option is that he's trying to blend in with the locals. He swaps out his red jacket for camo green, and he makes his assistant Baldric repaint his armor to olive, because obviously that will help him blend in with the locals. They'll hardly even notice his Mechanicus pilgrim hat. Story option number 2. The 4 guardsmen learn that they have new orders and that they're to report to Building 1337 for deployment. Once there, they're told to remove their blue planetary defense uniforms and don these green uniforms. At first, they don't understand why, but they do it. And then, when they're all suited up, Gerald enters the room. The troopers realize that this Inquisitor is insane, and he makes all of his assistants dress in his favorite colors. There's a whole storage area back on the Inquisitor's ship filled with green fatigues and jackets and armor. This is the guy that they've been assigned to? I honestly can't decide which is funnier, but either way, we're painting a picture of a frightening, unstable man. But he's in charge now, and it looks like the guardsmen will be following him into danger. I chose this model for his hat, all the crazy details, and the overall feel. The weaponry also played a role. Flamers and power swords can both be great features to paint. Flames are always fun, and you have the option of creating some lighting effects if that's what you want to do. Likewise, the sword on this Inquisitor could absolutely be glowing. For the pilot light on the flamer, I put some red, orange, and yellow on my palette, and I did a quick blend of dark red at the base of the flame to bright yellow at the tip. For the sword, I was really tempted to use my airbrush, but I resisted. I was thinking about doing one of those quartered patterns on the blade with really bright colors smoothly transitioning to black and then back to bright. I figured I could establish values with black, white, and gray, and then glaze a fun color over the top. Well, I wasn't having success, or fun, making a black to white blend, so I changed my plan and I just made a random pattern of black and white marks on the blade. I think once I cover this with a colorful glaze, the sword will look like something ancient and mystical and powerful. For the color, I used turquoise contrast paint. Without much excess on the brush, I applied the turquoise over the black and white sword, and the look was actually pretty cool. This could be an alien crystal that's been electrified, or something. I kept going and highlighted the sword's edges with white. This wasn't quite what I wanted, so I came back in with blue contrast paint over everything, and I wound up with a power sword that looks pretty cool. The color of the sword clashes with the rest of the model, but I'm okay with that. This Inquisitor has a powerful artifact weapon that really stands out from the rest of the surroundings and demands attention. I like the idea of seeing Gerald the Inquisitor from the viewpoint of the common soldiers, and they would absolutely notice this humming, glowing artifact weapon that Gerald has. It stands out, and it should. Once the sword was done, things started falling into place quickly. This figure really grabbed my attention. I picked a model from my backlog that I thought looked cool, and before I knew it, the project had taken on a life of its own. Those of us with too many models should think about painting the coolest ones first. Sometimes I hear people say that they'll paint their Space Marine librarian as a treat after they slog through painting a unit of Terminators. Wait a second, you're excited to paint that librarian character right now, and you're consciously choosing to do something less fun? I say paint the fun stuff first, and by the time that's done, you might have a hankering to paint some troops. Towards the end, I decided to play with just a bit of an object source lighting effect of the fire's glow on the hat. I made that side of the hat a lighter shade of gray, and I made the opposite side of the hat a blacker shadow. And then I glazed on just a bit of red and yellow onto the light side. It doesn't look quite right, but it's a step in the right direction. Either way, I've had my fun, and I am ready to call these models done. I finished off their base with a quick dry brush, and then I gave them a satin varnish. Finally, I stuck on a few tufts of gamer grass. I briefly considered an alien grass color, but it wasn't quite right for these models, so I stuck with marshy, swampy colors. As a final, fun detail to set the scene, I pulled some half-finished objective markers out of my collection. This squad is on a quest. I like to think about what they're finding as they're out tramping around the wilds. I like this one, a hatch in the ground probably leading to something terrible. This is just a square base with extra bits from a rhino hatch on top, and I think it looks pretty cool. Anyway, these guys found a hatch, and now this crazy Inquisitor with his power sword is telling the troops to open it up. And to think, the rest of their platoon is back home guarding a vehicle hangar, and this poor, unlucky squad is being dragged around the wilds in search of something awful. I like the idea of this squad facing stranger and stranger sights and enemies and allies, and just constantly wondering what they did wrong to get sent off on assignment with Gerald. This project was a fun little palette cleanser. I encourage all of you to take a look through your collections more often. You've probably got something in there that would be perfect to start painting today. Some model that you haven't thought of in a while, but when you see it, you'll know that the time has come. You'll get that glimmer of inspiration, and you'll have an awesome time painting. Of course, I have some friends who are watching this and screaming at me right now for not finishing my Warhammer army. Don't worry guys, I'll get around to doing that. I just gotta wait until the moment is right. Let me show you one more thing that I found in my collection. This is a witch hunter from Warhammer Quest. It's pretty cool to see the similarity between these two models. I think it's great that Warhammer 40k uses some of the same imagery from Warhammer Quest. If a character is named a witch hunter, they get a pilgrim hat. That's the rule. I mentioned that I got a lot of my collection from a deceased gamer named Chris. A lot of his minis were completely unpainted or only primed, but this witch hunter was painted. Of course, I'm not sure that Chris himself painted it, but I like to think he did. That's what I choose to believe. We can learn from Chris. We can't paint every model in the world, and we may not even be able to paint every model in our own collection. And if that's the case, maybe we should spend our time on the most fun models first. I'm sorry Chris didn't get to paint both of these witch hunters, but I'm glad he was able to paint at least one. It's a great model. Well, that's all for today. Huge thanks to everyone who watches and supports this channel. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me that people enjoy watching these videos as much as I enjoy making them. I love you all, and I hope that you're having a great day.